I woke up to the sharp sound of the front door closing. The clock on the nightstand read 2:37 a.m. Olivia wasn't next to me. The bed was cold, as if she hadn't been here for hours. I sat up, a dull unease settling in my chest. She hadn't called. No texts. I grabbed my phone and checked my messages. Nothing. Not a single word about where she was or why she wasn't home. Stepping into the dark hallway, I listened. She was moving around in the kitchen, her footsteps light but deliberate. Keys jingled. A bag dropped to the floor. Olivia? My voice was quiet but sharp. She froze. In the dim light, I saw her silhouette. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and there was something resembling a smile on her face, but it felt forced. "Why aren't you asleep?" she asked, bending down to pick up her bag. "Where were you?" Olivia bit her lip. Her eyes glimmered. Maybe from exhaustion, maybe from something else. "With the girls." I lost track of time. There was nothing suspicious in her tone, but something twisted inside me. "You didn't text me." "My phone died." Too quick. Too rehearsed. She unzipped her jacket and tossed it over the back of a chair. A scent lingered in the air. Expensive cologne. Not hers. A man's. Did I imagine it? Or were her fingers trembling as she took off her heels? I took a step closer. "With the girls?" Olivia's eyes snapped to mine. "Are you interrogating me?" I held her gaze. "It's just strange that you come home at 3 in the morning and didn't even send a message." Her expression shifted. A flicker of irritation crossed her face. "Are you trying to control me?" Her voice was quiet, but there was a challenge in it. I inhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. "I was just worried, Olivia." She moved closer, stopping just inches away. Her eyes locked onto mine, searching. "Well, I'm here now," she murmured, her lips brushing against mine. "Everything's fine." I wanted to believe her. I stepped out of the shower, towel drying my hair, when a faint flash of lightning illuminated the window. The rain tapped against the glass, adding to the tension that had lingered since last night. Olivia lay on her side, her breathing steady, but I could tell she wasn't truly asleep. Her hand was clenched into a fist, her body tense, as if she were waiting for something. I needed answers. I wasn't going to just turn a blind eye to this. Moving quietly, careful not to wake her, I reached for her bag by the bed. I unzipped it, my fingers brushing against something cold, her phone. I unlocked the screen, and my heart slammed against my ribs. A message. That was amazing. I can't wait for next time. The silence in the room suddenly felt suffocating. The heat from my shower turned into a cold sweat on my skin. I scrolled up. The sender, just a single letter, M. I took a slow, deep breath, forcing myself not to spiral. Maybe it was one of her friends. Maybe. "What are you doing?" Her voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it, something sharp. I looked up. She was awake now, her eyes locked onto the phone in my hands. "You're checking my phone?" My fingers tightened around it. "Who is this?" She didn't answer right away. Her face remained unreadable, but I saw it, that barely noticeable shift in her posture, like she was searching for the right words, the ones that would make me believe her. "No one." My jaw tensed. That was amazing. "Olivia, don't lie to me." Her eyes flickered. "You think I'm cheating on you?" She did it. She went on the offensive instead of explaining. I tossed the phone onto the bed. "I don't know what to think." "Do you even realize what you just did?" Her voice was low, filled with anger. "I was trying to find answers. Because you come home at 3 in the morning without a single text. Because you smell like someone else's cologne. Because someone is messaging you about how amazing last night was." She got out of bed, arms crossing over her chest. "And that gives you the right to go through my phone?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "What other options do I have, Olivia?" She tilted her head slightly. "You don't trust me. And are you giving me a reason to?" I took a step closer, and she didn't move away. Her eyes met mine, cold, guarded. But there was something else there too. Something I didn't want to see. "Tell me the truth." She held my gaze for another second. Then, without breaking eye contact, she picked up her phone, slowly swiped her finger across the screen, and deleted the message. That doesn't change anything, I said quietly. But now you won't see it again, she replied. And that's when I knew. We had crossed a line we couldn't come back from. I stood by the window, watching his headlights cut through the darkness before disappearing around the corner. Olivia had just left. She said she was going to a friend's house, but I couldn't believe her anymore. She didn't even try to explain. No arguments. No pleas. Her response had been simple. If you don't trust me, then there's no point. She chose not to explain, and that hurt more than any excuse ever could. I exhaled, pressing my palms against the windowsill. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here, waiting for her to come back and pretend everything was fine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from my friend Adam. Where are you? You coming to the bar tonight? At first, I was going to say no, but then I changed my mind. Yeah, see you there. I wasn't going to sit at home waiting for her explanations. If she was hiding something, I was going to find out. The bar was loud and packed. Adam was already waiting at the counter, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Oh, finally, he said, raising his drink in greeting. Dude, you look like hell. I scoffed. Thanks. I feel even worse. Adam studied me for a moment. So, did you talk to her? I nodded. And I ordered a drink, rubbing my face while the bartender poured. She didn't say anything. She just left. Adam cursed under his breath. And you just let her go? I turned to him sharply. What was I supposed to do? Physically stop her? No, but damn it, Noah. If she walked away that easily, then there's definitely something going on. I knew he was right. What do you want to do? He asked after a pause. I took a slow sip, letting the alcohol burn down my throat. I want to know where she was. Adam tilted his head. I might have an idea. I raised an eyebrow. I know a guy. Works for a rideshare company. He could find out where she went. At first, I wanted to say it was too much. But then, I had a right to know. Do it. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:13. I sat up, my head heavy, and grabbed it. Hello? Adam. I know where she went. Instantly, I was awake. Tell me. She didn't go to her friend's place. She was at a hotel. The air in the room suddenly felt thick. What hotel? Adam gave me the name. A well-known chain. Downtown. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. A hotel? Not a friend's house. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and left the house without hesitation. The hotel lobby was pristine. Marble floors, the scent of fresh coffee in the air. I walked up to the front desk. Good morning. I'd like to check if my wife stayed here last night. The receptionist smiled politely. What's her name? Olivia Bennett. She scanned the screen. Yes, she did have a reservation. Something twisted inside my chest. Can you tell me who was with her? She hesitated. I'm sorry, sir. That's confidential information. Listen. I leaned in slightly, my hands pressing against the counter. This is really important. The woman looked uneasy but then sighed and typed something. The room was paid for by a man named. She looked at the screen, then back at me. Mark Johnson. My throat tightened. Are you sure? Yes. And just like that, everything became crystal clear. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and called her. She answered on the second ring. Hey, love. Her voice was soft, gentle, deceptive. I didn't say a word. Noah, are you there? I inhaled slowly. How's Mark Johnson? Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Noah, don't lie to me anymore, Olivia. I heard her breathing, shallow, nervous. We need to talk. Yeah, I said. I think we do. The phone was still in my hand when I heard her sigh. Noah, I can explain. That was the worst thing she could have said. I could have handled any truth, but this, I can explain, didn't mean honesty. It meant she was about to come up with a version of events that sounded convincing. Then explain, I said, my voice cold and even. Let's meet and talk. Not over the phone. She was stalling. I'm coming to you, I said firmly, already hearing the sharp inhale she took, preparing to object. Noah, don't. But I had already hung up. I knew the route to her office by heart, but I wasn't going there. She could come up with any story she wanted. She could tell me she met with Mark for work, that it was about some contract, an investment, that she was just helping him with his business. But a hotel? At 2 in the morning? No. 20 minutes later, I pulled up outside her office. Mark's car was in the lot. Black sedan. I'd recognize it anywhere. She lied. I didn't think. I just got out of the car and walked straight to the doors. The security guard at the entrance gave me a slightly surprised look. Noah? Something wrong? I didn't know his name, but he knew me. Olivia had brought me here before. I need to talk to her, I said curtly. He hesitated, then nodded. She's on the second floor. I took the stairs, my heart pounding, heavy and relentless, like an echo in an empty room. I didn't knock. I just pushed the door open. She was there, and so was Mark. He was seated in a chair, relaxed, confident. Olivia stood by the window, arms crossed. She let out a tense breath when she saw me. Noah. Not now. I raised a hand to cut her off, then turned to Mark. How's it going, Mark? He lifted an eyebrow, smirking slightly. I'm guessing you came here to find out exactly that? I gave a slow nod. What's going on between you two? He glanced at Olivia. She said nothing. I'll ask again. My voice was no longer steady. It was stretched thin, ready to snap. What's between you two? Mark seemed to enjoy this. His expression said it all. You really want to know? My jaw tightened. Tell me, Mark. If you're so bold when I'm not around, say it to my face right now. He leaned back in his chair, completely at ease. We're lovers, Noah. Olivia sucked in a sharp breath. Mark, shut up. But it was too late. I stood there, letting the words settle over me like thick, filthy ash. Lovers. I looked at her. Is it true? She dropped her head. I took a step forward. Look at me. She flinched. Slowly, she lifted her eyes. And I saw it. Yes, it was true. I didn't know what shattered me more, the fact that she cheated, or the fact that she couldn't even deny it. Mark looked far too entertained by the chaos he had caused. Noah, buddy, don't take it so personally. I lunged at him. The punch landed hard and fast, his head snapping back as the chair tipped over. Olivia screamed. Noah, stop. But I couldn't. I grabbed him by the collar and hauled him to his feet. How long? I asked, my voice low and guttural. He winced, clearly in pain, but still managed to smirk. Long enough for her to keep coming back to me. That was it. I shoved him away and stepped back. Olivia stood near the desk, hands covering her mouth. She knew this was the end. I didn't want to hear another word from her. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly, because after this, there's no going back. I turned and walked out. Noah. I didn't look back. Not this time. The knock came exactly 3 hours after I had walked out of her office. It was dull, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should even be here. I sat on the couch in the living room, a glass of whiskey in my hand. I had no desire to open the door, but I knew she wouldn't leave. Another knock. Noah, please open the door. I exhaled slowly, the exhausted, hollow anger still pressing against my ribs. I got up and opened it. Olivia stood there. Her eyes were red, her hair disheveled, her face drained. She looked like she was about to fall apart. I need to talk to you, she whispered. I said nothing, just stepped aside, letting her in. She walked in slowly, cautiously, like someone stepping onto thin ice. I shut the door behind her. Noah. I crossed my arms, giving her nothing. No warmth. No softness. You made your choice. Now live with it. She flinched. I didn't want this to happen. Didn't want it? I let out a bitter laugh. Olivia, you crossed the line. Not by accident. Not just once. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Her hands trembled. I was confused. Confused? I nodded mockingly. Was this some kind of test? Were you trying to see how far you could go before I noticed? She shut her eyes, fists clenching at her sides. I don't know what to say to make you understand. Oh, I understand. I stepped closer. You cheated on me. Lied to my face. Went to a hotel with another man, and then came home and kissed me like nothing happened. I understand just fine, Olivia. Her eyes lifted to mine, tears spilling down her cheeks. I made a mistake. I stared at her, my voice low and sharp. Then why didn't you stop? She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I exhaled, turning away, walking toward the window. Why are you here, Olivia? She swallowed hard. Because I want to fix this. I let out a short laugh. Fix it? How? You want me to just forgive you? Pretend it never happened? She nodded at first, then, realizing how absurd it sounded, whispered, I don't want to lose you, Noah. I turned back to her. You already have. She broke completely then, sobbing into her hands. I felt nothing. I love you, she whispered. I stared at her. Did you love me when you were with him? Her head snapped up, eyes wide. Noah, answer me. Silence. And that was my answer. I stepped closer. Get out of my house, Olivia. Noah, no. I opened the door. Leave. She covered her mouth with her hand, her shoulders shaking. I didn't look away. She took a step back, then another. I'll do anything, please. I said nothing. She understood, and she left. I shut the door and leaned my forehead against the wood, trying to keep the anger and pain from ripping me apart. But this was just the beginning. I sat in my car, watching the entrance to the building where Mark worked. Olivia thought this was over. She thought I would just swallow her tears, her apologies, her excuses. She didn't understand one thing. If she played me, she would now live by my rules. I wasn't the kind of man who forgave betrayal, and I sure as hell wasn't the kind who let people humiliate him. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from Adam. What are you up to? I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the car door and stepped out. I needed a game. I wasn't going to yell, throw punches, or beg. I was going to take everything from her. The moment I stepped into Mark's office building, the receptionist tensed. Excuse me, sir, do you have an appointment? I didn't even look at her. No, I'm here for Mark. She stood up from her desk. He's in a meeting right now. You'll have to wait. I ignored her and pushed open the office door. Mark looked up. Oh, Noah, didn't expect to see you here. I closed the door behind me and sat across from him. I have a question for you. He leaned back in his chair, giving me that same smug smile. Of course. I leaned in. Do you like taking risks, Mark? His eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? You know I work in investments, right? I know exactly how your business runs. He didn't like that. And I pulled out my phone, opening the documents I had been compiling for the last 2 days. I did some digging into your financials. And you know what? You're not as clean as you pretend to be. His face shifted. Careful, Noah. You be careful, Mark. Because if I want to, your entire business will collapse by tomorrow. His fingers tightened around the edge of his desk. Is that a threat? I smirked. It's a promise. Mark stared at me. What do you want? I met his eyes. I want you to forget about her. He let out a quiet chuckle. You think she'll go back to you? I think you won't have a choice. Because if I pull this trigger, you won't just lose Olivia. You'll lose everything. His smirk was gone. This won't change how she feels. I stood up slowly. We'll see. And I walked out, leaving him there. The next day, I got a message from Olivia. We need to talk. I waited until the evening and invited her over. She arrived tense, nervous. What's going on, Noah? I crossed my arms. How long do you think it takes to destroy a man? Her face paled. What did you do? I smiled. Give him a few days. He'll tell you himself. She shook her head, stepping back. You can't do this. I can't. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because it's unfair? Her eyes flashed. This won't change what happened. No. I took a step closer. But it will change what happens next. She stood there, trembling, struggling to find the right words. But I already knew mine. You made your choice, Olivia. Now it's my turn. I wasn't going to stop. I woke to the sound of the front door closing. The clock read 2:46 a.m. She was back. I didn't move. I just lay there, listening as she quietly undressed in the hallway, placed her bag on the floor, and hesitated near the kitchen. She thought I was asleep. I knew I should have waited, Let her feel safe. Let her believe she could still get away with this. But when I heard her exhale, deep, heavy, like she had just been through something, I couldn't stop myself. I sat up. The sound stopped. There were only a few feet of darkness between us, but she already knew. I stepped into the living room. Olivia stood by the table, the streetlight outside casting shadows across her face. Noah. I didn't answer. I just looked at her and waited. She dropped her gaze. I wasn't sure if you were awake. Where were you? Her fingers brushed the collar of her sweater. A nervous habit. Don't lie. She fell silent. I stepped closer. This is a game to you, isn't it? Her eyes snapped up to mine. What? You think I don't see it? That I don't understand? I moved in, and she took a barely noticeable step back. You're playing, Olivia. This isn't a game, she whispered, voice tight. No? I studied her. Then explain to me why, after everything, you're still meeting him. She froze. I'm not. I pulled out my phone and unlocked the screen. Don't lie. I hit play. Security footage. Outside the hotel. Her. Mark. Their silhouettes blurred by the rain. I zoomed in. His hand on her back. Her fingers on his chest. Their lips. So close they might as well be touching. Her breath hitched. I watched her search for a way out. A lie she could twist into something believable. But she knew it was useless. Noah. I stopped the video. Explain. Her hands clenched into fists. It was a mistake. I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. You've said that before. Because it's true. True? I tilted my head. My voice low. Dangerous. The truth is you stood in front of me. Cried. Begged me to believe you. Told me you wanted to fix this. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean. Didn't mean what? I closed the space between us. Didn't mean for me to find out? Her eyes squeezed shut like she was about to break. I could have stopped, but I didn't. I hit play again. Look at it. Noah. Look at yourself, Olivia. She clutched her head, her shoulders shaking. Please. I turned off the screen. Why? She lifted her head sharply. Her eyes glistened, but not with guilt. Pain. Rage. Because you lost me before this even happened, Noah. I stilled. She stepped forward. You think this is simple? That cheating starts the moment someone kisses someone else? I said nothing. You haven't looked at me the way you're looking at me now in years. I felt the blood tighten in my veins. You let me go first. You did it before I ever did. My jaw clenched. That doesn't excuse you. She shook her head slowly. No, but you're not innocent either. I stared at her, feeling something shift inside me. Do you still love me? She didn't answer, and that was enough. I stepped back. Then this is over. Her eyes flashed. No. I looked at her. What? She stepped closer. I won't let you erase me from your life. I almost laughed. After everything? She swallowed, her voice unsteady. If I lose you, I will destroy everything you have. It took me a second to process what I had just heard. She wasn't begging. She wasn't asking. She was threatening me. I looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. She wasn't who I thought she was. She was far, far more dangerous. I woke to the sound of a message. The phone screen glowed in the darkness, her name flashing across it. Hope you're not missing me too much. I stared at the words for a long time, feeling something tighten in my chest. It wasn't regret. It wasn't remorse. It was a game. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me angry. She wanted me to respond. But I wouldn't. I hit delete and set the phone down. For the first time since this all began, I realized I didn't want this anymore. I didn't want to figure out why she did it. I didn't want to try to change her. I just wanted it to be over. I wasn't playing her game anymore. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Are you sure about this? He asked after hearing me out. Completely. All right. I'll start the process. I hung up and exhaled. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. It was over. Olivia came home later than usual. She opened the door, dropped her bag on the floor, and shrugged off her coat. Noah? I stepped out from the kitchen, arms crossed. We need to talk. She nodded like she had been expecting it. I wanted to talk too. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the papers, setting them on the table in front of her. She frowned. What's this? Divorce papers. Her expression didn't change, but I saw the way her fingers tensed. You're serious? Yes. She let out a short, almost mocking laugh. After everything? You're just giving up? I looked at her, feeling nothing but emptiness inside. This isn't giving up, Olivia. This is freedom. Her lips pressed into a thin line. And what now? You're just going to walk away, find someone new? Forget about me? I held her gaze. I just don't want you anymore. That hit. For the first time, I saw real panic in her eyes. Noah, don't. I shook my head. Everything's already been said. She lifted a hand slightly, like she was going to reach for me, but stopped halfway. You really want this? I looked at her one last time. Yes. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. Where are you going? To get some fresh air. With every step, I felt lighter. I shut the door behind me, and this time, it was for good.